Welcome to this episode of the Cool Dad Shirt Podcast. What's your favorite Tool song?
Dude, how do you pick? I don't know.
I cannot pick one single best favorite Tool song. My favorite Tool song is whatever Tool song is playing at the moment. I think that's got to be the best Tool song. And then the next one comes on and I'm like,
what the hell was I just thinking?
That's probably the best Tool song. This is probably the best Tool song.
Yeah, did you see Danny Carey is teaming up with Steve Vai? They're doing some King Crimson stuff.
Yeah, he's no kid and he's still so amazing.
Yep.
You know, I will always love Neil Peart and his drumming and Rush, but I got to tell you that Danny Carey is a monster, and he's 62 or 63 years old. Beast. I love his drumming.
Yep. Yeah. It's well, it gives you hope as we age. You know, there's some things maybe we can't do, but bringing the house down with drums, apparently you can do for a long time.
He is still incredible and busy, right? I mean, the guy's, like you said, teaming up with some folks, doing some King Crimson stuff. Good for him.
I love all the collaboration stuff that artists are doing now. They've already had their fame, they've made their money, and they just want to do cool things with fellow musicians. That's a great trend. I think you saw Santana did it amazingly he had a couple albums there where he co-wrote and sang songs with Michelle Branch and Rob Thomas, and that album was just a humongous hit, and I dig it.
Yeah, I think you're right. You do see a lot more of that nowadays, and musicians seem to be a lot more open about it, and it's not labeled as the band is breaking up and going in their separate directions. It's positioned that musicians in that band are collaborating with some other folks to write and record and produce some other tracks. It might be the result of, I guess, just earning money, right? Making money and staying active.
Well, I think it turns into some fun too. I know you and I both listened to Fly on the Wall with Dana Carvey and David Spade, and they often reflect back on their time at Saturday Night Live and how stressful and anxiety ridden it was to perform and be creative. Number one on the writing side of it, and then turning it into a performance later. And they both commented going back and hosting the show is just a blast because all that pressure is gone. Yeah. They've done it already. They're back just to have fun.
One day I hope to be in a band so I can collaborate and play in some other bands. But for now, I'll just keep reading Jerky Boys posts. Yeah. To aspire.
To aspire.
You ever picture your parents with tattoos? Like as they are now,
No.
But just imagining some tattoos on their arms, or your mom with like something on her shoulder blade. That thought ran through my mind the other day because, nowadays everybody's got at least some sort of tattoo on their body somewhere, and, young moms with their kids, and it's very socially accepted nowadays. Back then, when my parents were kids, it seemed like such a taboo thing. You had to be like a drunken sailor to go get like a clipper ship tattooed on your chest. And that was really like, out of the norm and kind of a badass or a rebel.
Everything you say is true. And it's funny because you just connected two things in my brain. I often think of these young women or young moms getting these tattoos and these wonderful butterflies or unicorn or whatever, but yeah, when they're 68 years old, what is that going to look like? So I've often thought about that, but I've never thought of my parents with.
I also think the abilities and the art and design and maybe the technology of the ink pen have advanced enough so artists can do very detailed, sophisticated designs that look absolutely beautiful. Whereas, when our parents were kids, you had your choice of like the dice or like a boat anchor or something like that.
I was just going to say that.
Or like the heart with, your mom in it. And maybe if they were really talented, they could carve out like a date in there. But it was relatively simplistic with just predominantly black ink or a dark ink that was shaded in. There was not a lot of variance in the design.
No, I remember just stupid jobs I had as a teenager, just manual labor or whatever it was. You'd find some old timer with, faded dark blue. I think the ink was permanently affecting their brain waves. It was toxic over the course of 3 decades. And it's a whole new world now. I don't know. We'll see.
Unregulated ink dyes.
Yes, it just keeps irradiating you for the next 3 decades.
Here's Pop Pop. That black thing on his arm is not a bruise. It is a ship anchor.
It looked great in 1947.
Post World War II, man, that thing was amazing.
You got all the ladies.
I've tried to picture my parents. I couldn't do it. I tried to go one step further and think, well, if they were to get a tattoo, what kind of a tattoo would it be?
Agreed. You've kind of
Yeah.
bent my brain. Nope, I got nothing. We're coming off, last week, at least here in upstate New York, I think you had at least 2 or 3 of these things. We had a major spring snowstorm here. We had an earthquake and an eclipse all inside 1 week.
That is pretty amazing.
That was a stellar week.
Yeah, the earthquake was quite a shocker, right?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I didn't even know what it was. I heard my windows rattling. I thought it was really windy or something, and a low rumbling. I didn't know if the UPS guy was coming down the street. I had no idea what was going on until my daughter Kelsey texted me. She's like, "Did you feel the earthquake?" I was like, "Holy crap!" And then you texted me like 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's funny, some of the conversations that came out of it, and you nailed it right there. You thought it was the UPS guy. It was so funny that within seconds after it happened, texts and calls were flying in from everywhere. Did you feel that? I thought it was a delivery truck coming down the road. So the two concerns were, and not so much a concern was, I thought it was a big delivery truck coming down the road, or I thought there was an issue with my oil burner. And that's what everybody kept saying.
Here in the Northeast, you don't expect too many earthquakey type things. So yeah, obviously we went to something else.
My wife was a little, I guess I would say, a little disappointed with my response to the rumblings. She said that I didn't even get up to check on her or anything in the house. And I tried to explain to her that, I wasn't quite sure what it was. I too thought it was just a delivery truck coming down the road. Therefore, I'm not going to get up and start reacting, running around the house and, grabbing her and diving, into the bathtub or something.
Be careful what you ask for, Nancy.
So,
UPS truck comes next week. You tackle her.
I'm frantically running around the house, scooping up women and children and pets.
Well, it all turned out okay.
We all survived. Hey, you mentioned having some interest in golf. I sort of chuckle when I say that because it's funny and makes perfect sense all at the same time.
My interest is, how do I want to say this? I play once or twice a year. It's usually with the old gang from my previous job at GE. And it's always best ball. I don't think mentally I could handle an actual round of golf. If you're just out with the gang, you're playing best ball. It is quite enjoyable to hang out with friends, have a nice walk in the summertime. So, I'll go along with that.
Yeah. You'll be joining the ranks of like the Alice Coopers, the Darius Ruckers. I don't know what other massive rock stars do love golf.
That is the plan, yes. And then joining a super group after that as well. Yes.
I mean, listen, you might collaborate with some other musicians just by playing golf. Think of the upside.
Exactly.
Will you be tuning into the Masters at all this weekend?
Probably not. My television is rarely on, but there is something wonderful about golf on in the background.
Yeah.
If you ever just need some downtime, just put some golf on in the background. It is complete serenity.
I remember as a kid, my dad, of course, has always loved playing golf. And when he would be home on those weekends after coming home from playing golf, it wouldn't take long before the tournament would be on. He'd be asleep on the couch and the whole house had this very like soft, calming, warm vibe that was taking place, with that whispering golf in the background. Dad's asleep. Everybody is completely chill, doing their own thing.
As Tiger makes his way up to the 8th tee. Dude, it's just so relaxing. Although now golf is so much more interesting. They got the laser trajectories. They got drones flying over. It is much more interesting to watch, unlike it was back in the 70s and 80s.
It literally set the tone for the entire household. When that was on,
Yes.
You always knew it had to be like 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon, and no one wanted to make a lot of noise to disrupt or wake Dad up. We just wanted to just continue down our course of serenity.
The house smelled like a pot roast. There's a crackling of the fire.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm getting really nostalgic here.
Hey, do you think Austin Butler still talks like Elvis?
Don't know the answer to that question.
You remember he played Elvis in the movie, right? And then long after the movie was done, he still was speaking like Elvis on all the award shows and everywhere he went.
Oh, okay. So I guess I didn't see that movie, and so I missed the reference. But it's funny because actors will spend a lot of time trying to immerse themselves in the character. So are you suggesting that it's stuck and he can't shake it?
It's a year even after that award. And in my head, I picture him going to like the convenience store, getting gas, and still doing the whole Elvis thing.
His wife is no longer amused.
Yeah.
You can see Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, we get it. We get it. You were Elvis.
You were amazing.
Shut up and pass the potatoes.
You won a lot of awards. We enjoyed the movie.
But please stop.
It's time to move on. You ever give thought to what the coolest house was on 70s TV? I mean, we watched a lot of shows in the 70s and into the 80s, and a lot of those sitcoms were very family oriented, and a lot of them were centered around their home, right? Family dinner, coming in and out. Most of the scenes were shot in like a living room or something, or a family room. Do you remember some of them?
I do. I was struggling to go through my head. I do remember thinking the Brady Bunch house that had the open stairs that you could see through the stairs. Like I had never seen that before as a kid. I'm like, you can do that with stairs? So I do. That was just my first architectural awakening, I guess, of interesting things you can do with stairs.
It was neat too because they had like that whole rock planter underneath it. Again, I'd never seen anything like that. Would you say that inspired you to pursue a career in design?
It got me thinking, yeah. And then, like the Munsters, didn't the staircase lift up? The monster was
the
downstairs.
Munster was on there. Yeah,
yep.
And the dad was an architect on the Brady Bunch, so
that's right.
I'm thinking this was very inspirational for you and your brother.
Yes,
it was very impactful.
Matt went proper architect. I explored a career in design on the engineering side, but wow, maybe that's the foundation of all this. I don't know.
That was it. You have the Brady Bunch to thank, But yes, that was a very cool staircase. I don't know where I'm going with this, Rich. I'm just thinking they were all very working class families, which I guess was representative of that era.
And I think it's true. I was going to say Americana, but I suppose around the world, the kitchen table or the coffee table in the living room is, it's the gathering point for humans.
Conversation, right? They were all centered around conversation and lessons. A lot of lessons back then. Do you think they did any good?
I don't know.
It's a lot of lessons. They were really pushing their agenda on us.
Really? Well, without getting too heavy, it was pretty wholesome back then. It was aspiring to be good people, and I think we're lacking some of that now when you consider today's what's on TV now. I'm not sure that's elevating society, what you see on TV these days.
Look at us, Rich. We're covered with ink. We're talking about Tool.
Yes.
We could benefit from some good, wholesome TV.
Yes.
There's nothing worth learning on TV anymore.
No. Hey, speaking of learning, you know what I just learned this week?
Tell me, Rich.
If you took all of the planets in our solar system, and you can even throw Pluto. I know Pluto was kind of kicked out there, but whether or not you
unrightfully so.
I agreed. So okay, we're on the same Pluto camp. If you took all the planets and you stacked them up side by side so they were touching, do you know you could take all of them and it would fit between planet Earth and the moon and still have room left over? That doesn't seem possible, does it?
So if you were to stack all them up, so that would be the diameter.
The diameter, that's correct. So
of
side
all
by
those
side,
planets is less than, what is it, 200,000 miles to the moon?
Wow, I think it's 249. I think it's 249,000, I believe. Okay.
All right. So the diameter of all the planets stacked up is less than the distance between Earth and the moon. Yeah,
that doesn't seem possible. I was chatting about this with my coworker, Justin, the former guest on our show, and we ran the math. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. I forget which ones, but a couple of those planets, I don't know if it's Saturn, but I mean, a couple of them are massive, massive planets that, dwarf the size of Earth.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jupiter and Saturn
Jupiter.
are
Yeah.
enormous. Yes, and so the idea, I think, just because the way it's always been represented, they're not really to scale and distance. You just don't. You can't
Yeah.
fit that in a textbook that way. They have to scooch them up. So mentally, the mental map we have is like there's just no way you can fit that in there. But yeah, easily.
That's a fun fact, Rich.
There you go.
That is your tip of the day.
Actually, I have a tip coming up a little bit later. We can get to that now or later.
You're listening to the Cool Dad Shirt Podcast with Rich and Mike.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, where you can post a comment or DM us a question. Thanks for listening.
Well, as long as we're already talking tip, I'll just launch into it. I haven't listened to the podcast or checked it out yet, but the Huberman Lab podcast, I just saw a teaser for it. They got the sleep expert on there talking about things, and they had one quick little takeaway. And he said, if you have the problem of waking up in the middle of the night and you have struggled to get back to sleep, he said the single best thing you can do not ever look at a clock. If you have a clock in your room, turn it around, turn it off. Do not look at your phone. He says, because it triggers this entire sleep anxiety. As soon as if you wake up at 2:15 and you're like, it's 2:15, you toss and turn a little bit, you look over, and then it's 3:05. You're like, I have a presentation due this morning. It's 3:05. He said that triggers a string of anxiety in the night. He said, just let it go, just roll over, try to go back to sleep, and do not think about it.
I always look at the clock, and I always immediately go into rage mode.
Yes, exactly. And the worst is when you wake up like 34 minutes before it's time to get up. You're like, well, I'm probably not falling back. Damn it. Yeah. I guess I'm up.
34 minutes, though, is a win. Normally, it's like I woke up the other night. It was 2:43 in the morning. And I thought, this is going to be bad because 4 or 5, I can deal with it and just stay awake. But 2:43, there's a lot of night left. So I did your trick where I start subtracting any number by 3 and work my way down.
Did it work?
It does help. What happens is I do it for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I forget where I'm at. And to me, that's a good sign. If I can't remember that, I must be getting tired or it must be working. So I get excited to the fact that I can't remember. So I start over. I pick another random number and I do it, and it does help. It's really pulled me out of some of those sleepless nights.
So I had the exact same experience. You start running through, and then you hit a wall. Obviously, the idea is to get your brain off of whatever else you were thinking about. So here's your tip: stop looking at the clock. If you keep saying, "I keep waking up at 4:30 every morning," well, how do you know that? Well, because I keep looking at the clock.
Yeah. Thank you for that tip of the week, Rich.
I hope.
You sent me a text message this morning and said you were doing some research. You weren't kidding.
we got solar system. We got the mechanics of sleep. Yeah, we're killing it today.
Yeah, really, some good, valuable content we're publishing this week. I got nothing. I got grandparents with tattoos and the Brady Bunch staircase. I feel like I'm coming up short. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the stuff that I noticed on my daughter's desk when I went into her room. She's home from college this week. I walk in her room. I look at her desk. This is what I see. Some various clothing items, dirty, clean, I don't know. Some money, some bills kind of crumpled up, thrown on there. One shoe and an expired cookie from Starbucks.
I think this is a universal experience of parents with college-age kids. Yes.
And I know the cookie is expired because it was still in the cellophane, and I could see that it was from a date that said expires on this date. So I picked it up and looked at it, and I thought, I wonder, forget the single shoe, forget the crumpled up money, forget the clothes being dirty or clean. I said to myself, I wonder where we're going with this expired cookie.
Yes. How long will it actually reside here?
I was perfectly fine with the shoe. Everything else on there made sense to me. The expired cookie was like the wrench in the works for me.
And then there's this natural curiosity. Part of you is like, I'm just going to throw this away. It's not, but the other part is,
no.
Is this going through summer, fall? We looked at Christmas time. Will it still be here at Christmas?
Yes. The natural curiosity of a dad. is mature enough to leave the cookie, whereas others, a mom would come in, throw that out immediately. She would not have this. She would throw it out.
Enough of that.
Your kid may or may not notice that it's gone. Probably won't even notice. But the dad leaves it there. He plants the seed. Now he's got this in his head and thinks, let's see where this goes. I want to be sitting in the living room and see her, come walking out of her bedroom, eating the cookie. I want to see if this happens.
Yeah. And I'm completely intrigued by the not noticing. And now it's all I can think about. How long will this go before it's noticed?
Yeah.
Occasionally something will get repositioned in my kitchen. My daughter will put it someplace else. I'm like, 15 years you've lived here and it's never been there before. And now it is. Just explain how we arrived. Explain how we arrived here.
That's the result of convenience. My daughter does that too. Tupperware is in one counter one day. It's in another one another day.
I don't know if you're like me when you're in the office. I kind of think I'm sort of quick-witted and a little bit funny, but my mind goes completely blank whenever a card comes around to sign. Everything just leaves my brain. Steve's retiring. I was just making fun of Steve yesterday publicly in a meeting. Like I'm on it. I kind of got a whole thing. I get a card to sign for Steve, and my mind's like, "Good luck." I have no material. The material just evaporates from my brain.
Yeah, you've signed 100 of them, yet you have no idea what's appropriate to write at the moment.
Well, and that's why and as soon as I do that, I'm like, just keep a little list in your desk of just 4. Just come up with 4 creative ones and just kind of rotate through them, And no, I never do.
Yeah. I fortunately don't have that problem. We don't do any card signing at my office.
Really?
They do. If it is somebody's birthday, usually a manager will bring in some donuts.
That is interesting. Back in my early days at GE, way back when, it was the responsibility of the birthday person to bring in their own donuts. I don't know where that came from, but you were required to bring your own donuts in on your birthday. That seems wrong, but that was the culture there.
I guess they did that so if it was up to somebody else's responsibility, they might forget.
Yes. Even you don't care enough to bring your own donuts.
When I got my MBA, whenever it was your turn to present, you were also required to bring donuts for that class. So it was a drag.
Maybe there's a psychological pairing there. If your presentation was marginal, the positive association of the donuts carried the day.
Nothing repairs a crappy presentation better than a Bavarian cream.
That's right. I have no idea how you possibly came up with those numbers, Mike. But man, was this from an actual Italian bakery? This is tasty.
These numbers make no sense to me.
Hey, back to sports.
Yeah.
I want to thank you. You did me a huge favor by bringing up Caitlin Clark because like 2 weeks after that, there was a massive NCAA basketball right here in Albany, and she was the star. She was here. And fortunately, everybody was talking about it, and I knew what I was talking about. Thanks, Mike.
Nice. Impressive. They used to have, wasn't the MAC tournament? What did they have up there? What was the tournament they would have there?
Okay, this ends our sports talk.
Yeah, probably don't know.
I don't know. It was the MAC tournament. I think it was the.
You think it was?
I believe that was a big deal here for the longest time. Yeah,
yeah.
It was a regular thing, but somehow Albany weaseled some of the finals here.
I overheard a conversation of my daughter on the phone about a week ago, and it was on FaceTime. I hear her talking, and it's some kid named Gavin, and he goes, "Mia, Logan wants to know if he has any chance with you." And then he sort of accidentally moves the phone, and Logan's in the background.
He's right
and then
there.
Logan says, "Hi, Mia." The next thing I hear is boop, boop. It just hangs up. I just heard the tone of the disconnected FaceTime, and it was so funny. That was the phone call.
Wait, so did Logan die of embarrassment and ended the call, or Mia had enough and ended the call?
It was the phone call wasn't long. It wasn't like they were talking for a couple minutes. I just heard him ask the question, and then I just heard the sound of the phone hanging up, and that was the end of it. It was really quick. And I stuck around, like I kept kind of hanging in the area to see if there was going to be a call back. That was it. End of conversation.
Shut down.
I just shut down.
Is it safe to say Logan doesn't have a chance?
Well, and there was like a part of me that was like, good for you, Mia. But there was a tiny, tiny part of me that was like, oh man, poor Logan.
Well, as men, yeah, we've all been there.
You know,
like you put yourself out there, and, oh man, that's just crushing. Just for the brand. Listen, I don't know if he's the right guy, but just the bravery of trying to.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough.
7th and 8th grade. I mean, you know, you're an idiot. You're walking around and you're like an idiot.
Yeah, I was right there with you. It was terrifying. You had no idea who you are, what you were doing.
I think that's all I got, Rich. I mean, you clearly did some much higher level research than I did this week. You're talking sophisticated outer space, time travel, speed of light.
It's about time I started pulling my weight around here. Let's be honest.
I have been listening to so much Tool lately, like nonstop.
I got it. Hold on. I got to add something to this post-it note. Listen to more Tool.
I'm going to request that this week you make a conservative effort, especially in that new car of yours, that new killer sound system. Absolutely. I would open up with maybe like Stinkfist and then just go from there.
In my band, 3/4 of the band drives a Honda CR-V. I'm the only outlier.
There's 4 people in your band, so 3 of those musicians have CR-Vs?
75% of the band is driving a very practical Honda CR-V, yes. I am the super cool outlier who suspected the bass player. I wouldn't have. I just upgraded to a 2020 Audi A4. It is spectacular, and what a huge upgrade from my previous vehicle from 2013. The tech, speaking of tech, is remarkable in these new cars. It was a gigantic step forward for me, and what a pleasure to drive. The sound system is amazing. I will be dialing up some Tool to blast in the new car.
If people didn't know better, they would think that you were the egotistical lead singer showing up in a car like that.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Rich is here. Let me guess. He parked on an angle in the handicap spot too, right?
Yes.
There's like an elderly lady just about to make the turn into the spot, and you come flying in, you cut her off, you park on an angle, and you walk out of the car to go inside to buy some beer and smokes.
Some smokes. Then go tearing out of there in a fancy German vehicle. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
And then they don't have the tap with the card in there. I'm making a scene. Why don't you have a tap on your credit card?
Why is this taking so long? It's completely the cashier's fault, not yours. Well, those are nice automobiles, so good for you. Yeah. And I suspect Tool will sound wonderful in there.
I think it's gonna. I think
that's it. Unless you want to mention anything about Colin Hay.
Yeah, Colin Hay. One of my favorites. You'll know him as the lead singer and primary songwriter in the band Men at Work from the 1980s. I've been a huge Colin Hay fan for many years. He was coming here. He was in Troy. He is an amazing artist. His songwriting, his voice is like, he's got a voice like Sting. It's a magical tone, not just a good singer, but Sting's voice is so unique, and Colin Hay's is as well. He, like at least 40% of the show was storytelling. It was great. He's very funny. He's very entertaining. Just a man and his guitar, and it was a fantastic show. I recommend everybody go check out some Colin Hay. All right. I think we're good.
Thanks to your great homework, Rich. I will say before we wrap that Rich's research this week was so extensive, he used the larger size Post-it notes.
Yes.
Not the common 3x3s. He was a solid 3x5 on this week's Post-it note.
And it's because I decided to include Pluto back into the solar system. What are you doing today? What's on tap for the weekend? You got to stow the eclipse garland, put that away?
Yes. Yep. The 2024 eclipse glasses. I got to pack up and put those away.
Oh, the glass. Oh, I missed the obvious joke. Damn it. Yes. The eclipse glasses. How did I miss that?
Those are going to go away. Those were probably going to be filed with the New Year's Eve glasses. We have a special bin for glasses through the years.
Oh, no kidding.
No, we don't. When I thought of 2024 glasses, I was thinking of all the wacky glasses everybody wears on New Year's Eve. It would be funny to have a pair for every year and save them. I wonder if anybody out there has done that.
I got it. When you started that conversation, I thought you were serious, and I thought it was a little charming. I would, starting with maybe the year 2000, the changing of the millennium and working your way up. I was about to say that is super cool, Mike.
New Year's Eve glasses for every year. Yeah, that would be nice. We probably have a bunch in there. I don't know if we have every consecutive year, but I'm going to take a look. Great show, and I will catch up with you later.
All right, man. Yeah.
Go on, smash that like button.